There you go. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about scene templates in Particleworks. And this is a very useful feature, something that can make use of saving some settings that you have in Particleworks. And it's something that I take advantage of quite frequently. And it's something that I don't see very many people using. So it's something that I want to share now, and hopefully it'll catch on a little bit. Oh, that's there we go. All right, so what is a scene template and why do we use them? So I see a lot of people, and when I'm working with people in Particleworks, and a lot of times people are starting every project, Particleworks project from scratch. Sometimes this isn't a big pain to do. Sometimes um, Um, but a lot of times you're just using the same settings or similar settings for each new application. You're working in a certain industry and the default settings in Particleworks aren't quite right for you, but there's a different set of settings that are usually about what you're using for each Particleworks project. And a lot of times you're going through and setting each of those settings one by one from scratch. Sometimes you can make little mistakes, forget to change one setting, and it ruins quite a bit of simulation time, wastes a good amount of time. So you don't have to start every project from scratch. Scene templates are a really good way to give you a head start and let you save those most frequently used settings that you use for your application. And basically what you're doing is you're saving everything about your project except the geometry, the pre-processing, post-processing. Anything that takes up a lot of data is not saved, but anything that's considered a setting, anything that can be described as just a single point, even things like flows, inflows, outflows can be saved with scene templates. Things like your pressure models that you're using frequently, your viscosity models, thermal models, some of your more advanced settings like how you set your current limiter or velocity limiters, and even some fluid properties and the interactions. You can go in and have that set up already so that it's very easy when you're starting a new project. The geometry is not saved. Um, and there are some ways that you can take advantage of saving just a location of a geometry, but it's not something that I typically do because the model connection is not saved when you use the scene template. So usually I'm doing this without the geometry in there. And so when you do this, it's really just a few kilobytes of data. I think it's about 25 kilobytes of data that you're saving as a scene template rather than saving a project and trying to transfer a project to somebody. These scene templates are very easy, simple, and a very small amount of data that is very easy to use and keep track of. All right, so how do we actually create a scene template? Really, really easy. It's a one-step process. Under the File drop-down menu, there's a section for scene templates. And once you have your scene open that has the settings that you want to save, you just click Create. And when you click Create, a new one comes at the bottom of these scene templates. And once you've done that, all of your settings that you had in your current scene are saved to that scene template. And then to use the scene template, it's also very easy. When you're creating a new project, there's this section that many people just ignore, which is for templates. And by default, that's empty. But once you've created a scene template, your templates that you've created will be in this drop-down menu. And so you can just select the one that you created and then press OK. And you're ready to go with all the, you have a new project created and all of your settings from that previous project are ready to go. So I have a little screen capture here that I did to show this off. I go through this very quickly, but it just shows the general process. And so I show off some of the things that I've changed from normal. I changed the units, I've changed the direction of gravity, I've changed the pressure, viscosity, turbulence, or I didn't change turbulence, but surface tension. And I go through and I change some of the current number, current limiter, collision distance. So I've changed all sorts of things. I've changed visual things about it. I've changed the domain box there. I have some pre-created fluid properties, wall geometry. I even changed some of these interactions. Again, very quickly, just showing off that I've changed all sorts of things about this model. And so then I go into these scene templates, click create. It created a new scene template, and you can rename some of these things to make it easier to find and recognize. You can leave comments so that you remember what this was actually for. Then when you're creating a new project, all you have to do is go down, select that template, press OK. And so now your new project has been created. And then when I open up that scene, everything from that scene template was actually pulled over to that new scene. And so that's something, and yeah, I go through and show everything that I just showed in that previous one was dragged over into this new one. And so that makes it a very convenient way, an easy way to start a new project. I'm often using the same similar default settings for each industry, each application. There's typically some default settings that I like to change from normal. And it's a very easy way to make use of that previous work that you've done and transfer that over. And again, I'll point out that I'm not transferring geometry here. I'm not pulling in the entire model. And because of that, the data that I'm transferring in between these projects and saving to this template is incredibly small. But it makes it quite convenient to start a new project. And I find this quite useful, especially for me. I like the visual settings different from the default. I have a certain visual settings that I typically like to work with that makes it easy for me to create videos, which is a white background. And then I change some of these to a black font. Those are my visual settings that I typically work with, and because of that, I like to save that to in that scene template as well, and that pulls in when I'm doing that new scene template. So where is this actually stored? We can help you find this if you're trying to, if you're looking through and can't find where this is stored. It is a little bit in there, and this one is on Windows 10. If you're using a different operating system, it can help you find where this actually went to. A little bit in there, app data, roaming, Prometech software, Particleworks, and I'm using 7.0 for this demonstration, and templates. And so there, with each template, there's actually two things that are saved. One is a folder, one is this JSON file. You need both of them in order to have it show up in Particleworks and run the scene template. One of them just contains the name and those comments that you fill out. And the other one contains all the detailed scene information. So if you want to share these, you want to be able to include both of those when you're sharing. And so just some ideas for how to use these scene templates effectively. As I mentioned, there are a lot of industries where you're using the same settings each time. And so if you're starting from these most used settings, it can be very convenient to start a new project with that template. Think about some of the monotonous tasks that you're doing. frequently. For me, that's changing the visual settings and changing those from the default. If you have some of those monotonous tasks, it might be very useful to think about how that could be automated in the process by making use of the scene template. And another idea is to have you many of these groups that we work with have some experienced Particleworks users, some that are less experienced. It may be an interesting idea to have some more experienced Particleworks users share some of those frequently used settings with a scene template. It gives the new users a starting point, something that maybe is more convenient to work with, so you're not having to be quite so careful making sure everything is changed. But thank you. Again, contact us at the support email, support@enginesoftusa.zohodesk.com if you have any questions about this or any other topic. And we'd be happy to take questions now if you have any.